It's Thursday. Top of the morning from the newsroom of Regional Radio and DeWittDailyNews.com. I'm Seth Lawrence with this expanded 7 o'clock newscast brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and brought to you by Connexus, providing fiber internet to Clinton. Learn more at DeWittDailyNews.com. Last week at the DeWitt County Board's June meeting, representatives from Enel Green Energy presented to the county board. It was a little less than a year ago that Enel representatives committed to better communication with the county board and returned at the request of the board last week. Board Chair Joe Whitty says there were 3 topics they wanted to hear from them on.
Yeah, they've met with us, last fall, I believe it was, and we kind of gave them a list of things that we wanted them to kind of maintain some communications on. I think the noise study was outstanding at that time. We had some concerns about the curtailment protocol, and I think the last item was the ADLS, and they did follow up on all 3 items. The noise studies are complete, and we've received all studies, so that item can be checked off the list, and they gave us a quick update on that, that they're in compliance with state requirements. They did talk about the ADLS, and I think they are continuing to work through some technology challenges that they've got, both with, I think, the hardware, and I think even with the software side of things. They have a hope that they can get I think it's the East Tower that is, it was the East Tower is functioning. It's the West Tower that has problems right now. I think they had a transformer that was fried again, and so they've got that replaced. They're just working through the connectivity issues, and they've actually got the manufacturer, Detect, is the one that owns the system. They're getting them the accesses that they need to be able to log in and maintain and monitor the equipment. So, we're hopeful that that's going to make some progress this summer and maybe be operational later in the fall. But, when you're dealing with new technology and they're working through their troubleshooting, it's tough to promise a date, but it sounds like they're doing the right things to at least try to get the issue escalated and get the right people involved.
The curtailment of the towers during severe weather events has been an ongoing talking point for the county's land use committee as well as on social media. Whitty indicates they are curtailing the towers when they receive notice of a warning from the National Weather Service, although he expressed frustration with the promise of that process being automated when it in fact is not.
Yeah, so what we heard was that they are curtailing when they are notified by the National Weather Service, and it takes some time. They kind of went through the challenges with, you can't just immediately shut off. I mean, they can issue a command to stop the turbines from producing energy, and they will, over the course of probably several minutes, the blades are going to feather, and you're going to see a reduction in speed of the blades turning. They're not going to come to a complete stop. But again, that comes down to when they are notified by the National Weather Service. My reaction, I think some of the other board members are frustrated with this because we sat through the hearing. Recall back in 2018, their original application was denied, and I think a large part because of the curtailment or the interference with the National Weather Service radar. Part of the second application was they unveiled this curtailment plan that everything was going to be automated. And so that's what I think a lot of the board members have been focusing on is, well, when is this automation going to come? And that's maybe the frustration, is that I don't think the automation, the system, the National Weather Service automatically, electronically notifying their system and no humans being involved. That's kind of how this was explained. And that's really the safest way to operate this, is no place for human error, right? It's all automated. You have humans in the background to monitor and make sure things are operating correctly. But that's how this was explained and approved. But unfortunately, the ordinance language, the condition, didn't get into that level of detail. We kind of took them at their word as this was described during the hearing, and even in a letter that followed the hearing. And what we're seeing is I don't think it'll ever be automated completely. It doesn't sound like they're working towards that. So that's the frustration. I think on the board side is we're not getting what was promised or what was described to us, but they're doing the best they can with the technology. I think what it was a disconnect between the folks that were, trying to get the project approved, and then the folks who actually have to operate the wind farm, for the next 30 years. There was a disconnect there, and our expectation was different. But
Whitty says the county's ordinances are not strong enough to force a change on the matter, so they will have to continue to be at the mercy of the human elements involved in that process.
Unfortunately, the language in our ordinance and the requirement that they curtail, it's not strong enough to say that they're in violation if they are not being notified by the National Weather Service. And so that's kind of where we stand. And, I put that's on the board then. We are responsible for the language. We now know that what's said in a hearing, if we're going to have a follow-up condition to attach to an application, we got to make sure that our language covers everything. We can't just go off of what was said or what was promised. We've got to have a detailed description in our conditions and make sure that they're enforceable. So, I take that as a lesson learned for the county that, the application explains, what they intend to do. But if we've got requirements that are not clearly defined in our ordinance and we're going to attach conditions, then we've got to make sure that our language is sufficient to monitor that and make sure it happens going forward.
While the state of Illinois has come over the top on some regulation of wind energy development, Whitty notes some of these things the county was able to correct recently in its ordinance review.
So I think the state statute, and even the one that was on the docket this last session, did not get approved. It's still limited to siting and decommissioning. Those are the main focuses that the state has been getting into. They have not been looking at an operational set of requirements. I think the county still has the ability to implement and add conditions that deal with the operation of the wind farm over the 30-year period. It's something that we did. We approved last month. We have updated the wind ordinance, clarifying the curtailment condition was part of.
Despite the frustration over the situation, Whitty understands a lot of things in the past are not a reflection of the current folks operating the Alta Farms 2 wind farm. A Lincoln police officer was recently recognized at the Illinois D.A.R.E conference in Peoria. Lincoln Police Chief Joe Meister explains last week his 4 D.A.R.E officers attended the Illinois D.A.R.E conference in which Officer Christy Fruget was named the Illinois D.A.R.E Officer of the Year.
We're very proud of our D.A.R.E program and our D.A.R.E officers. We currently have 4 D.A.R.E officers assigned that handle schools in Lincoln, but they enjoyed the D.A.R.E conference last week, and during that conference, our head D.A.R.E officer, Christy Fruget, was named the Illinois D.A.R.E Officer of the Year. It's a very prestigious award, and we're very, very proud of her accomplishment. She does a fantastic job and was very deserving of that. They accept nominations for Officer of the Year, for several other awards, meritorious service, things like that, which she was a recipient of in the past. And a panel selects the winner. And yeah, a lot of people recognize all of our officers that are associated with the D.A.R.E program, but Christy kind of stands out because she handles the Illinois D.A.R.E officer program, which is why the Lincoln Police Department hosts the training every year in February. So hopefully she sticks around for just a while longer. And
While being recognized for the D.A.R.E program in Lincoln is a great honor, Chief Meister could not be more proud of his officers and mentions that much of the work they do goes unnoticed.
Absolutely. I couldn't be more proud of all of our D.A.R.E officers, not just Christy, and the program that we run. We've been very active. A lot of events that have occurred that maybe weren't publicized. Our D.A.R.E officers take a grill out and cook at the baseball games in town, and each one of the junior high classes, we took them up to a Peoria Chiefs game and had a pizza party with them at the end of the school year. Things like that. I think they really make a difference in the community and help the youth to get to know their police officer. Yeah, the relationships that the D.A.R.E officers build with their students at the time, and then you see them 5 years or longer down the road. and they still remember that D.A.R.E officer.
Mhm.
They have a personal relationship with them, and I think that can make a big difference, especially if somebody isn't having their best day. Obviously, building any kind of rapport with your community is going to have a greater effect when they're not having their best day. Instead of me showing up as an officer that a person's never met, and them not knowing what to expect. Conversely, if an officer that they do know that they have a relationship with from years past shows up, they feel more comfortable, and so does the officer in communicating with those folks.
The Lincoln Police Department was also recently awarded a grant, through the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board. Chief Meister says the grant was for about $152,000, which will allow the department to give bonuses to officers to help with officer retention.
And along those fronts, we also got some really good news from the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board. The Lincoln Police Department was the recipient of a grant through the Training and Standards Board for recruitment and retention. So we get to offer our police officers a bonus to stay on for a certain amount of time through that grant program. Yeah. $152,175. The department applied for the grant. It was open to all departments in the state. We just had to do some studying and do some statistics to apply appropriately. I talked to all the chiefs, but I talked to a few of them, and everybody was eyeballing it. Well, I don't know if we stood out from a lot of others. I think we all experienced the same struggles over the last 5 to 7 years with short staffing and not a lot of applicants. So we were just, I guess, lucky enough to receive it. Had somebody looking out for us. This last hiring round, we saw a lot more applicants than we did in the 4 or 5 years before that. So I'm hoping that that's starting to swing back toward more positivity toward the career of law enforcement.
The D.A.R.E program encourages students at a young age to steer clear of drugs and alcohol, as well as teaches healthy mental wellness practices. News time is 19 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Thursday. Summer in central Illinois means two things: heat and the fair season. Terry Miller Casey is the director of the University of Illinois Extension in Logan, Menard, and Sangamon counties, and on the WHOW Morning Show Tuesday told regional radio the Sangamon County 4-H Fair comes up this weekend.
It is Illinois, it's the summer, and it has to get hot because guess what's coming up this weekend?
It's fair season.
It is. Our Sangamon County 4-H show is this weekend, and you know it's summer because it's going to be nice and hot. It is. It's our first one, and then it's followed up by Menard in July, and then at the very end of July, the 1st of August, is our Logan County Fair. It's our last fair. So it's Saturday, June 28th, and it is at the Sangamon County Fairgrounds in beautiful New Berlin, Illinois. And it's running from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. is our General Projects show. So for people who aren't necessarily familiar with 4-H, General Projects Day is when the kids bring projects they've been working on all year. They would have joined the 4-H club. They would have gotten a project book and things they were interested in, whether it be photography or art or maybe woodworking. And then they'll work on their project and they get to show it at the show on Saturday, talk to a judge who will ask them about their project, get to know the kid a little bit, ask them what worked, what didn't work, what might I do different next time, talk to him a little bit about the information in the project book. And then at the end of the fair, you get to see everybody's projects, and the public is more than welcome to come see. I always say, if you want to have a good feeling about the future, come to the 4-H show and see what these kids do. But we do have a public viewing from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. That is Saturday at the fairgrounds. And we would love to have folks come see the kids' projects. They're really proud of them. They love to show them off. And so that is our General Project show. And it will be like what I like to call organized chaos. There's kids and projects and things running around, and it's just so much fun. The energy it's great.
Not only are students learning skills that help them execute their project throughout the year, but Miller Casey notes the judging process teaches young students how to talk to adults and receive constructive criticism.
Absolutely. And so we call it the conference judging system. So kids get a chance to talk to adults, learn how to communicate, learn how to explain, talking through how they worked on their project. We also during 4-H club meetings have opportunities for kids to do demonstrations and talks We hope that each kid does one each year. And that gives the kids the opportunity to talk to people about what they've done, walk them through the process step by step. And those are really important life skills because, as we know, day in and day out as adults, we have to communicate with others. We have to explain what we're doing. We have to talk about why we're doing it, to talk about what the next steps are, what our plans are. And so this really helps prepare kids for that, the need that they're going to have as they enter adulthood to be able to communicate with other people. And it gets over their fears. And when kids are new, it's a little scary, but our judges are very nice. They like kids. It's always good to have judges who actually like talking to kids. Hopefully they put them at ease. And even if kids have some maybe opportunities for improvement with their projects, that's what the judges do, is they talk about the opportunities. They give them some really great tips and advice. And so hopefully the kids come out of the process feeling really confident and just a little bit more, just a little bit bigger, a little bit prouder at the end of the day of what they've accomplished.
Miller Casey also notes that you can visit the Sangamon County 4-H Fair Saturday at the fairgrounds. It's at 318 West Birch Street in New Berlin. The 4-H show will be busy this year thanks to the number of students they have. Since the pandemic, she says the numbers have really bounced back.
Well, it's looking like we're going to be busy. That's what it's
always
like.
Right.
Yeah, we've got a lot of. We had a group of young folks coming up, and that's just wonderful. And I've said this a million times, but post-COVID, people were really looking for opportunities for the kids to get out, to work with other kids, to do hands-on types of opportunities and programs. So we've seen a real increase in an interest. And as far as project areas, it seems like those kind of come and go. And kids often will be inspired by what they've seen. So maybe last year they saw a lot of visual arts projects. And so this year the kids are like, oh, I want to do visual arts projects. So we sometimes see like a big group of kids come through, and then something else will be really exciting, and there'll be more kids wanting to do photography. And that's pretty normal. And I think it's also just showing the kids like to explore their different options. And I encourage kids to try new projects every year. There's maybe, my daughters love visual arts and computers, but I'd always try to encourage them to do a different project than they've ever done before, because you never know when something's really going to inspire you. I've heard stories about youth who said, oh, my parents kind of said you should try a cooking project, and they didn't really want to do it, but then I absolutely loved it. And they've even turned it into careers. So I always try to encourage kids, try something new, because you never know what you may discover. And even if you end up, maybe it's not your favorite thing, I guarantee you'll learn something from it.
Learn more about the 4-H fairs in Logan, Menard, and Sangamon counties by visiting extension.illinois.edu/LMS. News time is 24 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Thursday. A quick break. We'll wrap things up coming up on the morning show.
Experience the power of better connection with Connexus Fiber Internet. Connexus delivers ultra-fast, reliable speeds to keep you connected at the speed of life. Whether you're working from home, streaming your favorite shows, or gaming with your friends, Connexus has you covered. Say goodbye to buffering and dropped calls and say hello to fiber fast internet. Ready to upgrade your connection? Sign up today by clicking the Connexus icon at DeWittDailyNews.com. Nothing connects us like Connexus.
Looking for a new Silverado? This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick here in Clinton. We have a good selection of new Silverado inventory. We have Silverados in 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s with several trim levels, custom, LT, RST, LTZ, and yes, even high countries. All our inventory is priced for our summer savings season. Baum Chevrolet Buick. Together, let's drive. BaumChevroletBuick.com right from the start.
News time is 26 minutes after 7 o'clock here on this Thursday. Again, I'm Seth Lawrence with you folks today for this expanded local newscast. After this heat wave moves off, more moderate temperatures should usher in July. Ed Shimon at the National Weather Service in Lincoln indicates the short-term outlooks show cooler air from the north descending on the Midwest.
Yeah, oddly enough, though, as I'm looking into the first week of July, a high pressure that's kind of Canadian-centered is going to kind of drift into Illinois, and that would spell a break from the heat. And I look at the entire month's outlook that came from the Climate Prediction Center, and they have only an equal chance of above or below normal temperature across the majority of Illinois, except for the far north. So, that's kind of hinting towards maybe high pressure settling in for at least a week of that first part of the month, hopefully. The heat dome is going to kind of shift over to the west of us. So it's kind of a good sign. We're not going to just flip on the heat switch and keep it going through all of July at this point is what it looks like for temperature wise anyway. When I look into the 3 to 4 week outlook, it's got heat above normal for Illinois. That's July 5th to the 18th. So, that's probably spelling a little bit of heat building in that middle part of the month. But maybe, like it'll be cool at the beginning and cooler at the end. So the middle part of the month, maybe our heat period there right after the 4th of July or so.
Temperatures from the start to the finish of July do not change much. Shimon calls it the peak heat month.
This is our peak heat month. 86 for a high is 86 average high. It goes all the way from the 1st to the 19th, and then it's 85 from the 20th to the end of the month for high. So right in the middle 80s. And then right around the middle 60, 64 for almost the entire month, except for the last week that it dips down to 63. So mid 80s, mid 60s, the theme of July. And then precipitation wise, almost 5 inches, which is one of our highest precipitation months of the year. 4.91 or so, right around there. A pretty wet month is expected. And that's because the thunderstorms can drop 2 inches of rain in an hour. Boom, you've got, a little over a quarter, almost half of your month's rainfall. And one storm. So that's why, on average across the entire area, almost 5 inches is what we normally see there.
The heat advisory for the week is in place and set to expire at 7 p.m. on Thursday, this afternoon. News time, 28 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Thursday. Time now for a look at this morning's obituaries. 71-year-old Deborah C. Easton of Clinton passed away June 19th at Carl Foundation Hospital in Urbana. A burial for 71-year-old Deborah C. Easton will be at Oak Park Cemetery in Clinton at a later date. The family has entrusted Calvert Funeral Home of Clinton with cremation rights. Memorials can be directed to the DeWitt County Friendship Center. 63-year-old Lisa J. Parker of Waynesville passed away June 20th at her family residence in Waynesville. No services are planned at this time for 63-year-old Lisa J. Parker. The family has entrusted Calvert Funeral Home of Clinton with cremation rights. Memorials can be directed to the Lisa J. Parker Memorial Fund in care of Brooke Deason. 65-year-old Dr. Jeffrey Asbill and 73-year-old Tonda Fiocchi Asbill of Angleton, Texas, formerly of DeWitt, passed away April 10th. Services for 65-year-old Dr. Jeffrey Asbill and 73-year-old Tanda Fiocchi Asbill will be at 10 a.m. Saturday, June 28th at Mausoleum Park Cemetery in Clinton, with Adam Brucker officiating. Memorials can be directed to the American Cancer Society. News brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick and by Connexus.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. Growing support for President Trump's claim that the